So first of all, welcome to today's webinar. My name is David McGill. So today's webinar topic is around 5 tips for coaching employees to improve performance. Before I introduce today's guests, I have a bit of housekeeping to run through. So first of all, if it's your first time using GoToWebinar, hopefully you've got in and you're able to connect your audio and you can hear us. So there's a couple of different ways you can connect. If you're dialing in through phone, you should see a list of phone numbers. So hopefully you've got in by now. Secondly, we have a lot of content to get through. We do have a lot of folks joining us today, so we do have time dedicated at the end for Q&A. So please, I'd encourage you to use the questions pane within the application. Post your questions there, and then one of my colleagues, David Bosang, will be moderating that at the very end. And then lastly, we are recording the session. So if you had a colleague that you feel that should have attended or couldn't attend, don't worry, we are recording. It'll be available within 24 hours after the webinar is over, and it'll also be posted to our website. So great. So just a bit about folks who are connected today. It's always good to see a nice breakdown of the audience. So in terms of locations, so we actually have about 35% of folks from the US that have registered for the webinar. And then UK is the next biggest region of about 18%, and then 6% from Ireland. I guess a lot of them may be from Scorebuddy itself. And then we have 40-odd% other locations as well. So quite a great deal of ranges and locations that people are dialing from. In terms of industry, technology makes up by far the most part of about 15%, followed then by telecommunications. Actually does, technology is first, and then telecommunications is second, around 14%. Financial services 10%, and then both healthcare and hospitality are about 6% each, and then a good 49% make up the rest. So quite a wide range of industries and locations. So again, thank you to everyone for connecting in. So what are we going to cover today? So I will be passing you over to Monique, who is going to walk us through her 5 tips for coaching employees. So I'll introduce you to Monique in a second before passing you over. And then we'll have a great discussion on team coaching between David and Monique as well. We'll get a demo of how you should align your quality assessment and coaching from Aaron, followed by a Q&A. And we do have a few polls sprinkled throughout the webinar as well, just to kind of get some engagement from you and see what way you guys are thinking about coaching and that. So who do we have on the call today? Obviously, apart from myself, David McGill. We have Monique Wintle-Camp. So Monique, thank you for attending today. Really looking forward to you speaking in a short while, and appreciate your time. And we also have from the Scorebuddy team, we have Aaron and David Bosang as well. So thanks guys for the time and dedication into this webinar. I'm looking forward to hearing from both of you. So before we hand you over to our first speaker today, we do have a poll, and we're just interested in seeing what your thoughts are in this. So the poll should pop up for you now in a second. So the question is coaching a regular part of your one-on-ones? So I'm going to launch that poll now. Simple question with an answer yes or no. So you should see that poll pop up on the screen. So if you wouldn't mind giving that a vote, please. And I can see a lot of people, any interesting results. So still, votes are still coming in. Okay, looks like that's about it now. So let me close the poll and I'll share the results of that. My screen just gone. So hopefully you can see the poll results. So the results are that 82% have said yes, that coaching is a regular part of your one-on-ones, and versus 18 is no. Monique or David, any comments on that? Is that typically what you expect to see in terms of on that question, in terms of coaching of one-on-ones?
I'll just come in. Hi, folks. Coaching is a route towards autonomy and supporting performance. So it's great to see 82% driving higher performance in the one-to-ones through coaching. So I think the 18% have food for thought in terms of the simple coaching tips that they'll take from Monique today.
Yeah. Nice. Great. Thanks, David. I don't know, Monique, you're going to speak now in a second, so I'm sure you'll have some input on that as well. So let me hide that poll and then go back to the slides. And then, so next, I want to introduce you to Monique again. So Monique, I'm going to just pass you the keyboard and mouse. Hopefully this goes as we planned. So Monique, if you want to unmute your line there, and then I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, no worries. I feel like I have all the power. Now you're handing it over to me. I can run a ruckus now, everybody. It's anarchy in my hands. Okay. So hi, everybody. I'm Monique Wintle-Camp, and I want to kick off by introducing myself a little bit. And even though I have control, it's not seeming, oh, there we go. We're on a roll now. So I spend the majority of my time as an executive and team coach, which means I work one-on-one with individuals around everything from confidence, executive presence, direction, you name it, and go in and work with teams as well to make high-performing teams work through difficult situations, or just reaffirm how they're going to work together. I also work with leaders and leadership developments that go in to organizations and work with them around their leadership development programs, which I really enjoy. I'm an emotional intelligence coach and a certified professional coach. And I've worked at companies such as Oracle and NetSuite doing sales enablement, coaching, and leadership development as well. I have a huge passion for creative writing. I actually have a degree in it, and hence probably that's where my obsession around communication, human skills, and the way we interact has come from. This is me and my family. My daughter's a little bit older now, very young-faced there. And I also do a lot of work with a charity called the Inspiring Leadership Trust, which is an organization supporting underprivileged women and girls. So it just gives you a little background into who I am. So my first topic around coaching then is all around emotional intelligence. And there's a few different threads I want to talk around this. So emotional intelligence is actually recognizing, understanding, and managing our own emotions, but also recognizing, understanding, and having influence the emotions of others. So how that plays into coaching in a couple of ways. One is our self-awareness. When we go in and start coaching somebody, whether we be their leader or as an external coach, we have to understand what emotions we're walking with, what we need to park at the door, and maybe our investment around something. Let me give you an example of a leader who I'm working with on their coaching skills at the moment. They say they keep really getting invested in the topics that their direct report is bringing to them. So they're wanting to grow and they keep wanting to input and make suggestions. And I keep saying, no, rein it back. Coaching's all about them discovering what they want and supporting them. So we have to be aware of how our emotions play up, where we take over, and what we need to do. The other thing here is I want you to think about where you go unconscious in your listening. What I mean by that is, for me, it's if I'm not interested in the subject, I just completely zone out. Or if I think someone's being a little bit arrogant, maybe, again, I go a little bit unconscious in my listening. But becoming aware of that really helps that connection stay focused to the person that you're having a conversation with. The next is self-management. As I said, it's not about you, it's all about the other person. That means putting your views and opinions aside and being present. Now, you might be thinking, that's all well and good, Monique, but I'm a leader, and of course I have a vested interest in the person that I'm working with, and I'm having coaching conversations rather than pure coaching. So what I say to that is, yeah, you're probably going to have elements of coaching where it purely is focused on the other person, and elements of a bit of mentoring or a bit of training that comes in. But again, be aware of how often you're stepping in and if you're providing the answers. And be aware of your judgments. As humans, we've got inbuilt judge in our head, judging what other people are saying. For example, you're probably judging what I'm saying now, passing comment inside your mind about what was being said. Again, noticing that and putting it aside so you can be fully present and listening. Emotional intelligence all around that connection. The next thing I want to talk to you about is powerful questions. It's a technique we use in coaching to help create greater thinking, better understanding, really ignite the possibilities in that person and heighten their own awareness. There are some key attributes to a powerful question. They have to be open. So, for example, no yes and no questions. It has to be open, such as what's the impact? What's important about that? And how does this honor your values? These are questions that enable them to explore, to think what's possible, go beyond our default automatic answering brain and get to our brain that really has to think. If they can answer quickly, suddenly, if it's a kind of default thing you've heard again and again, I'd argue that's not a powerful question. A powerful question will make them go, huh, that's interesting. Well, I don't know. I need to think about that. It's that space. And when you're having coaching conversations, allow that space to be there. Remember self-management, we might want to fill that awkward silence, but it's actually them processing it. So really do allow that. What I'd also suggest as a tip here is drop the why questions. So why are you doing that? Why is that important to you? And the reason we do that is that triggers a defensive mechanism in us. We want to defend why we're doing something rather than explore our own understanding. So drop the why and the closed questions. Some examples of closed questions, I am more than happy, open questions, I'm more than happy to post and share at some point to give you an idea when you are in your one-to-ones or working with teams to help develop that. And it should always forward the action and their understanding. Okay, the next one I want to talk to you about is coaching conversations. If you're a leader, again, you won't be doing pure coaching. And pure coaching is you have no vested interest in the client or the outcome from it. As a leader, as I said, of course, you have a vested interest. You've got goals they need to hit, KPIs that are sitting there. So you can have coaching-like conversations by using techniques such as the powerful questions. But they have a space and time. You cannot always have coaching conversations. Imagine you had something really urgent, a client's gone wrong, something has to be done in the next 20 minutes, otherwise it's going to escalate even more. You're probably not going to sit down with your direct report and go, so what's important here? How would you handle this situation? In those scenarios where it's urgent and it's important, you'd probably go more to training, directive communication, or maybe a little bit of mentoring if the time permits. But where coaching really comes into its own is where the focus is purely on their development. So in one-to-ones, in learning situations, actually maybe when things haven't gone right, that's a great way to coach and explore and see what's possible and how they want to grow. And I love the fact that a lot of you have said you have coaching in your one-to-ones. That makes me very happy. It's a great way because majority of people that have experienced real coaching from a leader have far more satisfaction in their job. They feel more supportive, understood, know where they're going and how the organization can support them getting there. So coaching is just not a nice way of having a conversation. It also has really profound impacts on the individual, the team, and the organization as well. The way that you can use coaching conversation is possible ways to handle difficult situations. So for example, someone is going to have to face and go do something. You might want to do some coaching around that. It can also be used to process emotions. Now, this can be quite strange for some leaders. I'm so grateful that this isn't the case for most, is that if you have someone come to you that's experiencing a very strong emotion, for example, I worked with a team recently that were going through the redundancy process, and the leaders were really struggling with people coming to them and expressing themselves. So we worked on coaching skills to allow those people to express their emotions, process them, be with them, be heard, be understood. And the connection that they had was far greater. And also, they said that going through that process, although not fun, somehow felt a little bit easier, knowing that they could express and that they were supportive around there as well. We've already discussed personal growth, a great one. Yeah, not just the question of where do you see yourself in 5 years, but what are you great at? Where do you excel? Where do you want to develop? What's possible when you're at your best? Yeah, you're on your best day. What can you achieve? What support do you need around that? These are questions that really make them think and know that they're powerful. And there's so many resources that can build up about values. And I'll talk about values more when we get to the team element as well. My next thing that I want to talk to you about is empowering. And I love this photo, by the way, brings me so much joy. But coaching is extremely empowering. If you've ever experienced true coaching or you've had an executive coach, the experience is like no other. It really enables individuals or a team to learn more about themselves, unlock those internal resources they have, grow in confidence, increase that communication, that openness and trust, and more importantly, that creative thinking. Throughout our childhood and into our adolescence and even adulthood, it's kind of drummed out of us, that creative thinking. If you think about it, through school, we're taught there's a right way and a wrong way of answering a question. There's a specific answer to a specific question to answer on a test paper. So we get programmed into that way of thinking. No wonder we are experiencing a lot of creative crises at the moment and understanding how we can use that more in organizations. But with coaching, what we can do with certain tools is actually unlock the possibility, empower them to think more creatively. And that's why as leaders, this is so powerful. If you've got a team that needs to create something, come together, do more, this couldn't be a better tool for you doing that. It's also a way of enabling a team to speak more openly, honestly, have empathetic communication. If you've ever been in a toxic team where you've never felt that feeling of togetherness, camaraderie, being able to rely on each other, it's not the best. But if you've experienced a team where you're all in it for a sole purpose and a sole vision, but you're all seen as individuals, wow, that is so powerful. I see it again and again with individuals trusting themselves more, starting to live life more vulnerably, with more passion, teams generating results that they wouldn't even think were possible before. And my last point I want to spend some time talking about is actually improving that team communication. So team coaching is getting more and more awareness and space over the last few years, and the understanding of it is just exploding as well. So team coaching is the focus on the team rather than individual. So if you're coaching one-on-one, your client or the person you're working with is the sole person that's invested in that. If you're team coaching, your client in that case is the ecosystem or the relationship that the team hold, not the individuals themselves. So it's a different shift. And how that works is you create and work with a team around things like values. So what do they hold dear? How do they want to communicate with each other? When things don't go great and it gets there, right? How are you going to resolve that? How are we going to have good conversations? but it just doesn't make a good working team. Team coaching takes it to the next level. It helps them analyze what's worked, what hasn't worked, and teaches them to learn from that and how to develop. Hence, the we Q, as we call it, the collective intelligence, is far higher than the individual contribution as part of that. Now, I'm not sure how I've done on time, but I'm quite aware that I've probably talked for a bit. So, David, how am I doing? Should I hand back to you now?
Yeah, if you're done, Monique, that's great. If you need a couple of more minutes, that's absolutely fine as well.
No, I'll leave it there because I know I'm having a chat around team coaching in a bit, so that would probably make more sense.
Excellent.
So
okay, great.
You.
So let me grab back the power, the control. Fantastic, Monique. That was brilliant. Absolutely. So a couple of things that stood out for me there. First of all, improving team coaching is something that really triggered something with me. So I'm looking forward to your chat now in a second with David. But the other ones around coaching conversations, great tip. And if it's something that you don't do, it's something you definitely should do. Setting up personal development plans, all that sort of great stuff. It's really important. So it's something that I do on a regular basis with my team. So it's a fantastic tip, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, so moving on then. Hopefully, yeah, I do have the control. Fantastic. So we have another poll. So this one is around, the question is, do you link coaching to learning outcomes? So I'm just going to launch it there now. So hopefully you should see it on your screen. So again, it's a yes or no answer. So if you wouldn't mind just spending a couple of minutes just putting your vote in there. And yeah, still votes coming in. This one is a bit more, yeah, probably no surprises here, which is probably great to see. Okay, let me see. I think we're about done now. Yeah, I think no more movement. So let me close the poll and share the poll. So there we go. So do you link coaching to learning outcomes? And we got 88% saying yes, and 13, is that what you see as well? 13% saying no, which is 101. Okay, so they're over. So great, thanks for that. And I'm sure that may come into the conversation next with David and Monique. So moving on. So David, I'll hand it over to you. So I know you're going to have a couple of questions you're going to throw at Monique and around team coaching. So I'll pass it over to you, David.
Many thanks, David, and hello again, Monique, and hello to everybody who's joining us. You're all very welcome, and thanks for giving us your time. So I'm going to tell a little bit of a story that goes back 2.5 years. So 2.5 years ago, I worked in a large global technology organization, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great company. But like many large companies, it went through restructuring. So I inherited a team which was made up of people who had come from other teams. They had had other managers, now they had new managers, and being honest, they felt pretty vulnerable. And this coincided with COVID hitting. So suddenly they were removed from the workplace. They were, as lots of us in our working environments were a little bit isolated as well. And the new way of working was weighing pretty heavily on them. So I realized here, normal one-to-ones weren't going to work in this situation because the business needed immediate results. So I reached out to Monique and I asked her to introduce the concept of team coaching into that environment because I'd read about it. It was something I thought, that possibly could help us. So I know you've covered briefly the introduction to team coaching, Monique, where you talk about the relationships that the team hold with each other and the ecosystem. Just a really simple question. How does team coaching work?
I'm smiling because that the idea of a simple definition of team coaching is slightly nuanced depending on the book and the philosophy you come from. But one of the best that I've heard is team coaching actually helps teams work together with others within their wider environment as well as them as an ecosystem. And it does create safe and trusting relationships, a better way of working and thinking, and to maximize the collective, and that's the important bit, the collective potential, performance and purpose.
Fantastic. And spoiler alert for everybody listening, I'm going to tell you how it all ended up. So the results from my old team, as a result of establishing team coaching principles, were better individual performance because confidence was built. There was an incredibly strong team culture created, and that came from colleagues coming from very differing team backgrounds. So they built a team culture. It actually increased long-term retention. So most of the team are still there. I was actually the one who left to join Scorebuddy, and I've just been in touch with them because they've gone through 2 fiscals. It was also better long-term performance for the business. So phenomenal benefits. And it really outdid what I or the other managers could have achieved individually with our colleagues. So adding that little team coaching exercise was almost a secret recipe. So I know I've been the recipient of a great team coaching experience. Monique, where else have you seen team coaching make a big difference to a team and to an organization?
A couple sprang to mind as you said that then. One was during the first lockdown, as we all can probably remember, one of my clients was a pharmaceutical organization that was linked with creating a vaccine, getting it out. And I was working with the team just before, and then as it hit, the whole team dynamics changed. So a team that was very stable and thinking very creatively, and they felt that they had the space, suddenly had something completely external rattle them. Longer hours, more demand. Suddenly they had more pressure, even though they were dealing with people's lives every day, it was kind of more pressure to deal with it. So we had to do more work to help them navigate what they were experiencing, giving and allowing space to still be creative thinking and support each other how best to do it. So that's one that sticks in mind. And probably without that, and I know a couple of other teams that didn't have that support, it didn't go the same way. And another one's a family-run business that I still team coach and still work with after a long period of time. The different dynamics between family and work and how that plays in is a really nice one that we continue to work with, and they're able to use those relationships but in a good way rather than maybe playing a little bit on it in that workplace.
Great example with bringing in the family business. Well, look, many thanks, Monique. And David and Aaron, I think we might hand back to you at this point.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Great examples there
Cheers.
Of where team coaching works. Sorry, David, do you have something else to say? No, okay. Okay, so moving on. Our third and final poll. So let me launch this one. So question, do you train managers on how to coach? So if you are a manager that have maybe another layer between you and some other folks, do you train them how to coach? So if you just give that a couple of minutes, and this looks like this one's a bit more even. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so still votes coming in, and Monique or David, I'll get your comments on this particular one from your experiences as well. So I think we're about done. Okay, so let me close that out and share the poll. Okay, so 27% said yes, and 73% said no. Monique or David, any surprises there with those results? Is that something you typically see? Is it something we should be doing more of?
So it's not atypical. Quite a lot of organizations don't often run coaching training for managers, but it's certainly something that's really easy to implement with some quick and easy training that makes dramatic results. So if you're not, maybe it's something you should consider doing.
Yeah, good tip. That should be your tip number 6. Fantastic. Okay, so let me go back to the slides. I think now we're going to hand over to, whoops, oh, wrong, over to Aaron. Aaron, so I know you're going to give us a demo. So again, let's make sure this works as we had planned previously. So Aaron, you should see a pop-up on your screen, make presenter.
Yeah.
You can share your screen and we can hear you as well.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Perfect. As you can see from my picture, Scorebuddy's aged me a lot. So look, I I just wanted to basically use this time to discuss how quality links into coaching, and how you can utilize the information that's collected at the point of scoring interactions to identify those coaching opportunities. So look, firstly, Scorebuddy is a quality tool, but I can't emphasize enough, quality should not just be treated as a tick box exercise. It's so important that at that point of the initial evaluation that you're capturing the information of, why particular failures might be occurring, providing feedback to the agent on how they might improve, and just generally utilizing the information from a scorecard and using that then as a coaching opportunity. So the first part I wanted to take you through is how that information is captured in Scorebuddy and how you identify those training gaps or coaching gaps. So within Scorebuddy, we have a dedicated analytics tab that captures all of that information and feeds it back to you in terms of reports. And the one I'm going to focus on today is in relation to root cause analysis. So root cause analysis is really key to identifying those coaching opportunities, because you're giving specific feedback for why a person has failed a particular question. And I mean, that speaks for itself in terms of how important that is for coaching. So we have a dedicated report here that will show you those root causes by individual staff member. So if I look at, for example, the data from last year for this particular group, I'm going to have a look at this particular channel for email and hit apply and see what it brings back. So if I just zoom in a bit for everyone in attendance, so you can see a breakdown of section and questions for a particular scorecard. And along the top here, you have the agent names. Now, the first thing that has stood out to me on this page is Bobby Hill. And on question 2, I can see that 9 times last year, he had a root cause of agent behavior. So what can we do to ensure that that doesn't happen again going forward? There's a functionality within Scorebuddy called tasks. So it actually allows you to create a task for an individual. So if I navigate to the staff tab here, for example, I'll go to employees, and you'll see that there's a more option alongside the agent's name. So what I'm going to do firstly is just create a task. And it is for that agent to complete the course that I have assigned to them on good agent behavior in customer interactions. Now you can input a description on how you'd like them to implement it within interactions, on when you'd like it to be completed by, but you also have the ability to have a due date set for completion as well. So I'll say the 30th of June. I'm going to put that as high priority and the task at open. So you'll see that goes to in progress, but I want to show you what it looks like from an agent's perspective. Something Monique mentioned is communication being key. I want to show you how that agent can interact on that task that I've just created. So this is what an agent sees in Scorebuddy from their perspective. So firstly, you'll see their overall score versus the team. If you have a proactive agent, if I saw, my score that is 79 and the team's overall score is 96, I'd want to start improving on interactions going forward. But just on the tasks, you'll see that this one here that I just created, it's 4 weeks from now, it's due for completion, it's high priority, it's currently open, and I can hit start task. So now that moves to in progress. So that's the first, I suppose, acknowledgement from the agent's perspective that they've received the information that you provided to them, and they're going to put the relevant actions in place. So for the team lead, manager, or coach that has created that task, in order to track that and track the progress on it, within Scorebuddy, they also have a dedicated dashboard. So if I go to Henry's dashboard, who is Bobby's supervisor, you'll see there's actually a dedicated tab here for staff coaching. And underneath that drop-down menu, I have 2 options, appraisals and tasks. Appraisals I'll come to in a moment, but what we're focusing on now is the tasks. So what I can see is that there are 17 incomplete tasks and 1 completed, and 12 of those are overdue. So there's a serious issue with the tasks being completed within this team. But if I actually look at the individuals, I can see which individuals are not carrying out the tasks that have been set for them. If I actually click on the number here, it will show me each task that has been created and what the current status of that is. So that is the, I suppose, first area for coaching that I wanted to speak about in Scorebuddy. The next piece I want to talk about is something that I gave a little preview to there a moment ago, and that is appraisals. So we have a dedicated functionality in Scorebuddy that allows you to appraise the agent rather than just on individual interactions. You're appraising a certain time period and looking at their overall performance. The appraisal module that we have follows the GROW model. GROW being G for goal, R for reality, O for opportunity, and then the W for will. So if I actually go to new appraisal, I'm going to say June appraisal for Bobby, or maybe even annual. We'll say Bobby Hill, and I want this appraisal again to be completed by the end of the month. And the period I'm going to focus on is last year. So let's see how Bobby done throughout 2022. So you'll see that that's now added to my list. If I actually click on that, the first option is the goal. So the great thing about this functionality is that if you hover over the information tab, it will just give you a couple of suggestions in terms of what to be populating in each field. I'm just going to put in some information here for the goal. So review performance for the quarter, identify coaching opportunities, implement performance improvement plan and training or courses if relevant, and obtain input from the employee and set target date for completion. So that's the goal. The reality is where we're looking at the performance of that individual for the time period that we selected. So you can see my performance was slightly above the overall team, but still not where you'd want it to be. But if you scroll down a bit further, you can actually see the individual interactions that are attributing to that particular average. So if you wanted to see if there's any coaching opportunities by clicking on comments piece here, so you can see that there was some feedback that he was struggling to manage his time. You can actually then view the individual scores as well to look at any additional feedback on that. The next option is options. So again, if I hover over that, how would you tackle this if time wasn't a factor? What option appeals to you most right now, and what else could you do? The great thing about this piece is that at Scorebuddy we do also have the fully integrated learning management system that allows you to create your own course content. So if you had a particular course that you think is relevant for Bobby at this period in time, you can actually add the course and assign that to them through this appraisal. And all you have to do is click enroll, and that's now been sent to Bobby to begin working on. The next piece is, again, feedback on what you think they could do to improve performance going forward. The last option within the GROW model is the will. And again, this ties into the tasks functionality. So you're setting tasks rather than on an individual score. You're going to be looking at it for entire time period, and you're going to say, by 3 months from now, I'd like to see your email scorecard at 90%. And again, that's interacting with the agent. They'll get a notification each time a task has been created. And lastly, you have the opportunity to leave a bit of an explainer as to, you know, what you'd like Bobby to do going forward. If there's any particular feedback that you'd like to give them outside of the GROW piece, you can input that here as well. You can also include hyperlinks for any external training materials that you wanted to include, and then add the comment. So that is the task, or sorry, the appraisal has been created. I now want to show you what the agent sees and how they can communicate with their manager on that particular appraisal. If I just go back and switch user, so it was for Bobby Hill. And again, really highlights the importance of communication and transparency within the coaching area. So if I look at Bobby's dashboard, And you can see they have a dedicated tab here for appraisals. So when I click on that, I can see this is the one that I've just created, the time period, when it's due for completion. And if I click on the actual appraisal itself, I can see all of the information that was set, my current performance or the performance for that period. But then I have the opportunity to leave my own feedback on this. So it could be an acknowledgement that you've received the appraisal. It could be questions and anything that has been assigned to them, additional feedback on certain courses that were added as well. And that is how you can link quality back to coaching. So I'll hand back over to you, David.
Fantastic, Aaron. That's great. So as a wrap up, I just want to thank you everyone for attending, for registering and attending. And I'd say the recording will be available shortly. Thank you, Monique, for your time. Fantastic 5 tips. As I said, I've taken one away, which is brilliant. So thanks for that. Great insights from the polls. And also thanks to Aaron and David B for their input as well. So brilliant. And I hope to see you on the next webinar, and you will receive an invite for that one once we are launched with that one. So again, thanks to everyone for the time today, and wish you all the best in the rest of your day. Thank you.